acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land within the Shire of Chittering, the Ute and the Whadjuk peoples. We would like to pay respect to the elders of the Noongar Nation, past and present, who have walked and cared for the land. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution made to this region. Can we just shut the door, Anna? Thank you. Item 1, I declare the meeting open at 7:01. And please note, as per Council Resolution 130423, this meeting is being live streamed, but they can't see you from there, so you're doing well. Item 2, record of attendance. Apologies, approved leave of absence. In attendance, we have all of Council. And from the staff, we have Melinda Prinsloo, the Chief Executive Officer, Scott Clayton, the Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Mr Jake Whistler, Executive Manager of Development Services, Mr Leah Pidoda, Executive Manager of Technical Services, and Anna Bateman, who's our Executive Assistant, who's taking the minutes tonight. So members of the general public, how much we count? 22. But we'll just do a quick check. Ask me to check. Check 1, 2, 3. Roughly 22, I think. Close enough. We have 0 media. We have 0 apologies tonight. Approved leave of absence, there are 0. Attendances. Councillors, you were requested to advise your attendance in your role as elected member at community activities and meetings. You have those on the screen. Are there any corrections to list of attendances? Okay. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Councillors, you must declare any potential conflict of interest in any matters before Council tonight, as soon as you become aware of it. We do have, are there any first? We do have one disclosure of interest from the Chief Executive Officer in relation to item CO 030425, Chief Executive Officer Performance Review. There are no others, so thank you. Item 4, public question time. Public questions generally limited to 15 minutes in total. Each member of the public is limited to 2 questions. Questions will 2 minutes for each question and 2 questions per person. Please state your name and address and then ask the question. That will be that. There are no responses to previous public questions. Are there any public questions? By all means.
Hi, my name's Jenny Hall and my address is 29 Peters Road, Mewshay. First question, how many cases on a similar scale to 99 Polinelli Road, Lower Chittering, relating to clearing prior to approval have been followed up or referred to DEWA in the last 5 years where any action was taken by DEWA or Shire of Chittering?
We'll take that one on notice.
Question 2, I refer back to Council meeting of February 2024, agenda item 101 Tea Tree Road, Bindoon, in regards to clearing 12-metre wide fire breaks without approval of pristine bush zoned as conservation. What action was taken by DEWA and Shire of Chittering, if any, and were they required to rehabilitate or preserve another area on the property to offset what was cleared with no approval?
Take that one on notice, thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Any other public questions?
Mr President, Chris Waldy, representing the Bindoon Museum and also as a member of CTAG. I'll refer to the item this evening, COE 04, page 65, in relation to CTAG dissolution. The Deputy CEO did send out information on this subject. Regrettably, I wasn't in a space to fully comprehend it when that came out. I've had a little bit of time to think about it now, and I believe that it should be laid on the table until a meeting of that group is held to discuss some of the matters rather than the 3 replies that came through. So when it comes to that item, could I ask that you look at laying that on the table, please?
Thank you, Chris. Any other public questions? Item 5, petitions and deputations. Petitions, there are nil. Deputations, we have 3 this evening. Just as a preamble, so deputations are not to exceed 5 persons, 2 of whom which may address council. Deputations are not to exceed 10 minutes without the agreement of council, and deputations to focus on the following. They must state the name and address. Do you agree or object to the officer's recommendation in the report, and state the reasons for agreeing with or objecting to the officer's recommendation. I will ask Bailey Hall to step forward to speak to officer's recommendation DS020425, application for development approval, building envelope relocation, 99 lot 201, Pollinelli Road, Lower Chittering. Welcome, Bailey.
Evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to let me read my deputation. I'm Bailey Hall, the owner of 99 Pollinelli Road since March 2022. I'm here to object to the officer's recommendation to refuse the relocation of my building envelope. I'm just going to recap a little bit about the last deputation at the Agenda Forum last week, and I will then proceed to the new information. When I purchased the land in the Shire in 2022, I was very young at the time, and this property was my first purchase of real estate. I purchased the property privately through the landowner and not through a real estate agent. I never received any information from the Shire regarding what the land uses were or what I could and couldn't do in relation to clearing and thinning of the bushland to help with reducing the bushfire risk to my property. In the Agenda Forum last week, a councillor asked the CEO if a welcome package of some sort is sent out to a new ratepayer in the Shire. The answer was no. I would hope that this is something the Shire could look into doing to help future buyers be aware of what their land use is approved for and what restrictions, if any, are imposed on any bushland that is present on the land that they have purchased. As stated in my last deputation, the main reasons for wanting to move the envelope to the rear of the property are privacy concerns from the front of the property, noise pollution from Pollinelli Road, and the fact that the front is on a hill and it's perfectly level at the top of the property where I am proposing to move the envelope to. I've only been made aware of the clearing restrictions after my application to relocate the building envelope was lodged with the Shire. As it stands, I've cleared 4,000 square metres, to which 2,000 square metres is the building envelope and the remaining 2,000 is the 20 metre setback from the envelope to maintain a fire asset protection zone and a large fire break around it. The Shire and Chittering Landcare claim that I've cleared 10,000 square metres of bushland. I have only cleared around 4,000 square metres at the rear of the property, and the remainder of the property has now had all the low-lying bushes, small scrub and regrowth trimmed back. All the big trees and those in the current envelope have only been trimmed up by thinning the understory of them. The 4,000 square metres cleared includes the bushfire attack level zones, large fire breaks and the building envelope. I have had a bell rating assessment done and received a bell of 19. This picture I've got here, this was done in 2016 prior to when I bought the block. It's facing the southwest corner of the block, so it's at the bottom right corner of the property and then facing the southwest. This is where I've cleared the 4,000 square metres. As you can see, it's just all small scrub. There's very few larger trees in the area. Can we go to the next picture, please? This is a picture of the rock. When I purchased the property, there's a fire access road on the other side of my boundary, but on the neighbour side of the fence. I'm guessing when it was cut, they just pushed all the rock and everything onto my side of the property. There was about 4 or 5 piles of rock like this all throughout the bush on the northern side of the boundary. I've probably removed about 200 tonne of rock from the property as it was just littered all throughout the property. This bushland consisted of many rocks, dead trees and regrowth. The only large tree that was in the area at the back was a large jarry tree that is in the bottom right of the property. At my expense, the tree now contains an artificial nesting hollow for the Carnaby as well as 2 others on the property. In regards to fire break clearing, the northern boundary of my block is a fire access road on the neighbour's side of the fence. This fence line was well overgrown and the fence was non-existent. I went on and cleared the boundary and re-fenced it all at myself and my neighbour's cost. My neighbour reached out to the Shire in relation to clearing and fence replacement, to which the Shire informed him that it would be a landowner's responsibility. The Shire did not mention anything about clearing restrictions at this point. While clearing the fence line, our parkland cleared 15 metres from all the boundaries on my property. I thought by doing this that it would help manage the fuel load and protect my land and future structures from bushfires, as I am in an extreme area for bushfires. I refer to February 2024 Ordinary Council Meeting Agenda Item Lot 101 Tea Tree Road, Bindoon, where a councillor stated at the council meeting, "If you've got the space and can afford to put in the extensive fire breaks, then it's a smart thing to do, not a silly thing. It's what you do to protect your assets and protect your property." And then further on at that same council meeting, the same councillor also stated, "I would put in 16-metre fire breaks if it were me as well. I think it's a smart move in my view, the wider the better, and will serve in the long term to help protect not only the asset, but the land." This was in regards to Lot 101 Tea Tree Road clearing 16-metre fire breaks all around the property without having any approval. By thinning out the rest of the block and leaving all the large habitat trees, I have made my property a lot more manageable for fuel loads from the trees. I have trimmed the tree canopy on numerous trees and also reduced the fuel load 4 metres under every tree by thinning around the bottoms of them, to make my property more accessible if a fire was to ever threaten my property. The dead leaves, dead wood and rocks throughout the bush made the property extremely dangerous if a fire was to ever come through it. It makes the land a lot more protected and will make it safer for my family when I build my future home. At the last agenda forum, Chittering Landcare claimed that I've stripped back all the topsoil across the property. This is completely false. I've actually had 300 tonne of clean topsoil brought in and I've spread it across all of the property. The reasoning for this is because the ground type on some of the property is extremely rocky and unlevel and prevented any native grasses from growing. As stated at the forum, I have had 3 artificial Carnaby hollows installed in the most ideal trees on the property. I am willing to get another 2 installed and also establish an area on the property to rehabilitate the bush that was removed from the rear of the property. The 5 artificial Carnaby hollows would promote nesting immediately rather than replanting the bush and waiting 200 plus years for the trees to develop a hollow. Also, by leaving the trees in the current envelope, it would minimise any more clearing that needs to take place. But if the envelope is not approved, the current envelope at the front will have to be cleared, which would mean 7 mature Jarrah Marri trees would need to be removed. This would make no sense to clear more trees. The Shire has been in contact with all my surrounding neighbours in regards to the clearing that has taken place at the rear of the property. None of them have a problem with what has been done, but are yet thankful due to the fact that the thinning of the bush has helped their bell rating and will protect their properties from future bushfires. Immediately after the Agenda Forum meeting last week, I watched Rosanna Hindmarsh from Chittering Landcare approach a Shire officer and begin talking about my property. I found this very inappropriate considering the sensitivity around the issue, and I was only metres away and could overhear the conversation that they were having. With this happening right in front of me, I felt compelled that I had to walk over and explain my side of the story. I feel the Shire officer shouldn't have engaged with the Landcare representative while my family and I were within hearing distance. This raises concerns for me for how much influence Chittering Landcare have had on the officer's recommendation. I feel the situation has been unnecessarily escalated with Dwyer compared to other development approvals in the Shire that are on a much larger scale compared to mine. This process has gone on far too long. Dwyer's initial comments regarding the clearing were not for or against and hadn't really given a recommendation. When Dwyer came out to my property in March, they didn't seem overly concerned about what I had done, almost as if someone had made it out to be worse than what it was. We came to a verbal agreement that I could offset the bush from the rear of the property to another place on the property, and they seemed very happy with that, and they were also happy to see that I installed 3 artificial Carnaby hollows. According to planning officers at the Agenda Forum, should the council vote against the officer's recommendation, Dwyer would take it as a development approval, but also didn't say they would enforce a penalty if it was not voted in. As far as officer recommendation to seek legal advice, I feel this is a complete waste of ratepayer money that could be spent better elsewhere. Over the past few weeks, I've been doing a fair bit of research on other agenda items similar to mine. I've referred to Lot 101 Tea Tree Road a few times now from February 2024. This development was somewhat similar to mine, but on a much larger scale. This development application was to build a single dwelling house in a conservation zoned block. The approval was to clear 49 acres of pristine vegetation on a property zoned as environmental conservation, which included the 12-metre fire breaks that were cleared prior to having approval. Council officers recommended refusal, but the council president put forward a shadow motion that was voted in favour to go ahead with it. The main objection on this development was the land clearing. I find this very inconsistent given the officers recommending the refusal of my envelope relocation, given my case is on a much smaller scale compared to Lot 101 Tea Tree Road, Bindoon. And also, the bushland cleared on my block was not graded as pristine. A councillor also stated at that meeting, if that land was to be protected forever, then it should have had a different zoning. If the bush on my block was to never be touched, then it should have had something on the title about not being able to either move the envelope or it should have been rezoned like the councillor stated in the council meeting in relation to Lot 101. My land was used as farmland prior to being subdivided and is now zoned as rural residential. As far as the officer's concern around council approving my building envelope that it would set a precedent, I think this is completely false. Many precedents have already been set with applications like 101 Tea Tree Road and also the many structures that have been built within the Shire with no approval, but council officers have given approval after the fact. The toll that this process has had on my mental health and well-being is not something that I would recommend to anyone. As I previously noted, this process has gone on far too long. I've had a loss of income from having to leave work early on multiple occasions, which have resulted in a few dramas at my work. It's been 7 months since I first sent in the application. I would tell anyone that asked about the process to do the correct research before clearing anything and apply for a permit first how I should have. From my point of view, the Shire and Council have already set the precedent by allowing 101 Tea Tree Road to knock over 49 acres of conservation land and not do anything in return, such as replanting bush or installing artificial Carnaby hollows like I am. As I said before, Lot 101 had cleared the extra wide fire breaks around the property prior to having any approval. I feel that I've been singled out and targeted as far as attempting to make an example of me. I find this extremely unfair due to the fact that 49 acres of conservation land was passed to be cleared by council to build a dwelling. Unlike what has occurred at Lot 101 Tea Tree Road, I'm offering a compromise to offset the clearing that I've done, and I'm willing to work with council to come to a mutual agreement on what needs to be done. As I've said, I've already installed 3 artificial Carnaby nests. I'm also willing to establish an area to revegetate on the property with the appropriate plants and trees. I would be happy to work with the council for recommendations on what species of plants and trees would be most suitable to replant in the new locations that I'm proposing to do it in. Can we go to the next photo, please? Obviously at the back, that's where I've done the clearing. That's 4,000 square metres, building envelope being 2,000, and then the other 2,000 being the fire asset zone and the large fire break. This blue area is where I'm happy to revegetate, obviously revegetate it with all the plants that are required to go back in there. I hope to have a favourable decision where the council thinks back to when they approved Lot 101 Tea Tree Road to have 49 acres cleared for a mansion, while I've only cleared 4,000 square metres, of which 2,000 being the building envelope, and I'm willing to offset that somewhere else on my property. I hope for council to object the refusal of the relocation of my building envelope on 99 Polinelli Road, Lower Chittering, and that we can come to an agreement that suits both parties. I would like to get on with building my new home so I can enjoy my future living in Chittering. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next deputation Mr. Colin McLennan, speaking to Officer's Recommendation DS030425, application for development approval, outbuilding with reduced setback, 74 Devon Way, Lower Chittering. Welcome, Colin.
Yeah, evening, councillors. Look, Colin McLennan at 78 Devon Way, Lower Chittering. First of all, I'd like to thank, obviously, the planning for the full support of our rejection of the application. I've just put a couple of photos up there basically showing what's happened in the area. So on the left there, that's our house before, and on the right there you've got the trees that have been removed. So there's a lot that's been removed there. The one that you can see, the large one on the right, is actually on our property. Everything else behind's gone. It's all been cleared. Without even consulting us either as well. The structure in question not only poses a fire risk that they want to put in there, but it's also the position's a serious concern of the size of the shed, and in years to come, the location of the shed as the close proximity to our bedroom. You know, me and my wife have lived for the past 14 years and raised 2 kids here. We've been in the Shire for 14 years, and I find it hard to accept what's going on if we can go to the others. So all the others are just going on to show our lifestyle that we've had. That's something that just goes for the pool runoff. But you can see the before there, the after, it's all gone. So any proposals that they're putting, they've already proposed, they've cleared, they've started doing earthworks. Ours is the one on the left, there's the one on the right, all the trees are gone. So this is fire breaks, obviously. The one on the left and the one on the right, you can see behind the daughter's head. That's the gazebo. So everything's just been stripped. So we've had a number of mature trees in the area as well that have been gone. So if you go past there now, you'll actually see up in the back there's large stumps still in present. It's not nice, and I think I sort of hope it doesn't happen to anyone else. Especially, you know, we've been there 14 years and everything's established, so it's not as if it's new residential blocks as well. I looked at the fire breaks. The fire breaks, you know, 4 metres high, 3 metres wide. In your council recommendations, it's tree pruning, not removal. But these have all been removed as well. Our bedroom location's 23 metres from the actual edge of the boundary as well, the property boundary. The other reason I really support what you've objected to is that we don't have building envelopes. So the only rule that we have on the block is 20 metres from the front and 20 metres from the back and 15 metres from the side. And I just find it hard that there's no structures from the back of the house up. So I really do hope that it wouldn't get overturned as well. And it's like the old rules, you know, like with this one here, they've actually started something, and then once they've done it, and I don't blame the neighbours at all. I put it down to misinformation, probably also given by the shed company. The shed company, I don't think they were truthful and honest. They just said that it will get approved, but it's a lengthy delay. And I find that as a local company that's actually building sheds in your council, to say something to someone and give false hopes and dreams. I don't know what they actually paid for the application, but I'd be really concerned and ask for it back. So the recommendation of sending out the proposals and what you can and can't do in the Shire that was raised in the last meeting, I think was an absolute godsend. But I think some of like the shed building company in particular, would need a copy of that as well, just to sort of let them know on the frustrations, and not just that, the mental health to the wife as well. This has taken a massive toll. As you're probably aware, she's not been here for the whole time. She can't stomach it. She's feeling sick, so she's not well at the moment. So I just find it really hard. Also, too, just in closing, I'd like to thank and support the council in just, a resident that's been here for 14 years. We've done nothing wrong, but now all of a sudden, as you can see, we get headlights coming off Devon Way now. We get headlights coming off New Shea East. All the land's gone behind us, and I don't see why. I'd love to know if something was ever submitted to you for clearing. Talking to the planning officer, Jake, I don't think they realise the extent of what was there and just how quick, the stuff grew in the area as well. We've planted a number of trees since we've been at the residency as well. We have cleared a couple of small trees, mainly due to the risk of the daughter's riding. She rides horses, but we've had some white gums that have come pretty close to dropping off and falling. So I understand some clearings are necessary, but I really feel that it's unnecessary to build that close when there's no restrictions on your block, and I'd just like for it to be moved and kept away.
Thanks, Cole.
So, thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. The next deputation is by Jess Keeble-Jenkins. Speaking to officers' recommendation for DSO 3 0425, application for development approval, outbuilding with reduced setback, 74 Devon Way, Lower Chittering. Welcome, Jess.
Hi, councillors. Is it alright if my partner Daniel comes up as well?
Thanks.
Thank you. So, good evening, councillors. My name is Jess, and this is my partner Daniel. We do live at 74 Devon Way. Firstly, we would like to apologise for all the land clearing. We had no idea. Again, we didn't get any information package. We signed on with, we spoke to multiple sheds, shed companies. Nothing was said to us at all, and it wasn't until we actually finally signed on with the contract, then we realised in writing that we shouldn't have started anything at all. So we seized all earthworks from there on. Secondly, we'd like to also address the clearing of trees, which keeps getting mentioned. We did get flagged the first 2 years that we were there through rangers driving around being fire unsafe. Everything was very overgrown. Trees were massive in height, on fire breaks. So our understanding was we had to get rid of most of those trees in regards to how close it was to the fire breaks. Also, in that same area where we've cleared for the shed, there was minimal trees cleared due to there was already a chicken coop and things like that there. Those trees as well were quite big and close to the neighbour's fence and posed a risk on actually falling onto their sheds and sea container that's close to the fence as well. Again, really sorry, we have submitted those reports. I don't know, councillors, if you've got access to those reports, but we did have those rangers drive around and speak to us as well. So again, our apologies. So we're standing here today to object to the officer's recommendation. We'd like to kind of highlight on reasons as to why we would like the shed to be placed where we've applied for. Here are some of the reasons.
We'd like the shed to be placed where we've recommended, just because there is a low gradient. Well, it's on less of a hill, so there's less earthworks to do. There's less damage. The areas, well, there was already a chicken coop and a little shed there beforehand, so it was already pretty clear before we started. There was only a few little, we got rid of the chicken coop, and there was a few little trees to get rid of from around it.
A lot of those trees as well, like the bushes, were actually oleanders, and at the time I had horses up the back and a free-ranging goat, and they're actually quite highly poisonous to both humans and animals. So, sorry, that was another. Keep going.
Yeah, and also the driveway will carry on up to the shed, which would be I don't know, it's just less of a cost if we move it inwards or backwards, which is something we needed to look at because we're not rolling in money.
But also, it's the preservation of land is one of our key things. Like, we're pretty lucky to live in such a beautiful spot. We don't want to dig in heaps into the ground and have massive retaining walls, because the further back up we go on our property, the steeper that is. And it's hard to kind of justify with photos and that. I do have a folder here for you. Sorry, you can keep going. Sorry, I'm a bit old school. I didn't realise to submit them through to your computer. Is it right if I pass them down? Yeah, so this is just a folder I got organised. Yes, have a look at. There should be a picture of the as well. Sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, our shed placement has been carefully considered to be used as a sound and dust barrier from the neighbours between both of our entertainment areas and their shed and amenities.
So just kind of elaborating with like the noise concerns, it works both ways. Like, when you look at our dwellings, they are quite close in vicinity. When you look at the bird's eye view, I did have a printing there. It's a shame because our entertainment area is the same side as, say, their bedroom. So if we do have friends or family over, they probably do hear the noise quite easily directly into that room. And then vice versa, like, we can really hear when they've got their radio going throughout the week and weekends. So we thought having the shed placed there as like a direct kind of diagonal line, or even we didn't really want to bring it too far forward because we didn't want it directly too close to their room, because we know that is a concern for them. So we thought it would act as a great noise barrier in that sense.
Yeah, and a visual barrier.
And also visual barrier, which is something else that we would like to consider. So ever since we bought the place, we've always noticed that they've had lots of sheds and a sea container quite close to that fence line. And we especially obviously notice it now that we've done a little bit more clearing and pruning. So that was something as well that we would like to try and block out and improvise for as well.
And yeah, and just really just want to be dealt with fairly, because they do have sheds and a sea container outside of their setback, and we just thought it was kind of alright. And yeah, we will be willing to plant like trees and a hedge up along that whole fence line, spanning from the shed back all the way, most way down the driveway anyways.
Yeah, we feel like we finally got the kind of property at a place where we can actually maintain it. So when we first bought it, it was very overgrown, a bit overwhelming, and not very fire safe, hence why we've got so many reports, and we kind of drilled the first 2 years we were there. We kind of feel like we're at a place now where we can plant more trees. So we've actually got 20 trees ready to go. We're trying to grow an additional 20, and then we're also sort of in the works of deciding what trees to go up our driveway as well. So for all the trees that you see that are lost, and yes, like really sorry, we were not aware, we are planning to replace those, if not double them.
Yeah. Well, and plus we still do have a lot of trees on our property.
Yeah, which obviously
Massive
we're trying
trees,
to maintain. And again, that's another reason why with alternative locations with the shed, we're not inclined to put it sort of closer to those trees, because a lot of them are big white gum trees, which are known, they're called widowmakers for a reason. They do drop limbs, and we are constantly picking up after those as well. But heck, they're a stunning tree, and we don't want to get rid of the ones that we've got. So that's something as well that we'd like to consider, is keeping that, is it 20 metre radius, I think, from your house, but then also within limits with the shed as well.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah,
Anything else to add?
it was just more to emphasise on the alternative areas, which are highlighted in there. Just with the steeper slope, we're digging more into the ground, where then it's a bit more of a detriment to the tree roots as well. Just also the increase of cost in doing all that, and the extending of the driveway. We didn't want to obviously take out more trees just to put a driveway to a shed.
When there's a clear run straight to the shed.
Yeah. We have taken a good 3 years to really consider this. We've tried to consider both parties the whole time. We completely understand the concerns the neighbours have raised. We feel like we've got similar ones, and this was our way of trying to improvise and kind of overcome that sort of thing. So again, we just wanted a similar setup to them, but instead of having like multiple sheds, we just wanted one that we had easy access to, and that we didn't have to damage any more of the land, and still we both get to enjoy the semi-rural lifestyle with all the sheds being in a similar area and not spread across. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you. Okay. Item 6, applications for leave of absence. We do have one. From Councillor Hughes, I think, from memory. Oh, yes, it is. Thank you. For the 10th of May through to the 9th of June 2025 inclusive. Councillor Hughes, you are the mover. Yep. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Angus. Councillor Hughes, do you want to talk to that? Not really?
Not really.
Not really, Lee, that's fine. Councillors, anyone speaking against the motion? Councillors, no one speaking against the motion. I'll declare carried without dissent 7-0. So thank you. Are there any other applications for leave? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, but to come. All right. Item 7, confirmation of minutes of ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday the 19th of March 2025 as published. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? One at a time. Councillor Ross. Seconder. Councillor Dewar. Councillor Ross.
Not a lot to say, Mr President. They're prepared to the usual high standard.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dewar.
Nothing further to add, Mr President.
Councillors, does anyone wish to make any further comment? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor, right of reply not required. If no right of reply and no one speaking against the officer's recommendation, I'll declare carried without dissent 7-0. Item 8, announcements from the presiding member. There are four. First one is Anzac Day ceremony. The service will be held at the Bindoon War Memorial, located at the Chinkaby Sporting Complex, commencing at 11 a.m. Those wishing to join and march are asked to gather at the cricket nets by 10:50 a.m. Following this ceremony, light refreshments will be served. Please bring a plate of morning tea to share. These can be dropped off at the Chinkaby complex before the services. Second announcement is Bushfire Brigade Tin Rattle. This year's Tin Rattle in the city. That's what it's called, in the city. Scheduled for Friday, the 16th of May 2025. Alan has extended an invitation to brigades within the Shire of Chittering to take part in the event. So we have encouraged our brigades to participate, as it is generally well supported by the public and a good source of donations through a coordinated event. Please be sure to support them if you can. Alternatively, you can always make donations to your local brigades at any other point in time. We thank our brigades and we acknowledge the very hard work that they do during the fire season to keep us all safe. Emergency WA app. Just a quick reminder for everyone that you can download the new Emergency WA app onto your devices. It is quite simple but powerful way to stay alert. You can receive warnings and keep safe during emergencies and stay informed. If you stay informed, you can stay safe. So remember, the Emergency WA app is available. Just a note that the CEO is on leave from the 28th of April to the 17th of May. And the Deputy CEO, Mr Scott Clayton, will be acting in her place. That's it for announcements. Item 9, reports. Development services. The first item is DS01, proposed amendment to Local Planning Policy 1 sea containers. Councillors, you have an officer recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis, mover. Seconder. Councillor Dewar. Sorry, Councillor Campbell, sorry.
Close.
Well, there's only one seat out. Okay. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, Mr President, I support the officer's recommendations. About time some of these sea containers are cleared out of this place. So hopefully our new policy will sort it all out. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr President. So I support the officer's recommendation. I suppose the local planning policy for sea containers has been updated to meet the requirements of the Shire as developments come online, such as Wildflower Ridge and Mache Industrial Park. Just to add, it was advertised and there were no submissions or objections with the new planning policy. So you support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor, is anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Curtis, you have right of reply.
Nothing more to add.
Okay, councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour, show of hands. Carried, 7-0. Next item of business is DS02 0425, application for development approval, building envelope relocation 99 or lot 201, Polinelli Road, Lower Chittering. We have heard from the deputation, so thank you. As a note, councillors, there is a foreshadowed an alternative motion, it was, sorry, from Councillor Hughes. And as per our council local laws, we'll deal with the officer's recommendation first, and if the officer's recommendation is lost, we will then deal with the alternative recommendation. That's the order of business. Right. And councillors, you have the alternative motion. So for the officer's recommendation, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis is a mover. Seconder, please. I'll second it. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, Mr. President, I support the officer's recommendation because our planning department works for years on these subdivisions and building envelopes, and to have someone come along, or anyone to come along and change what we've done, it just, to me personally, I think we should just ban any objection to building envelopes, because we put all these planning, we've got a planning, why have a planning department if we're not going to do all this? And got the Conservation Council, our Conservation Council is Chittering Land Care. Now they're put all their time to protect the environment, and and anyone can do what they like. It'll be a free for all if we don't approve refuse this, and I can't see what the hell's going on in this shire lately. Everyone's clearing everything without approval. It seems like it goes unreported, and I think it's got to stop sometime. We should ban all these applications for changing envelopes. Put all this time in, and look, we've only got 30% left of our natural vegetation since Captain Crook come here. 70% and 30% we've got left, and how long is that going to last us? Another 10 years and we'll have nothing left. I could go on and on, but no, I'm not supporting this. It has to change. I'll be putting a motion as soon as possible, have all these banned, these appeals and that.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Right, my turn to speak. I think the difference between the Landgate 2022 and 2024 aerial imagery conclusively establishes that the proponent has undertaken unauthorised clearing of high-value vegetation that was to be protected through the designating building envelopes as part of the structure plan. And it's also established that the proponent has cleared all vegetation at the rear of the property without development approval for a building envelope relocations. These are established. I can't accept the proponent's deputation that he was not aware of the building envelope and provisions for the native vegetation protection that is covered in the strata, the structure plan. By virtue of the rates and property inquiry was provided to the proponent settlement agent, and within that rates and property inquiry, it has an illustration of the building envelope location, and it also has reference to the statutory legislation in regards to the town planning, which may impact the property. And so therefore, the information was there, available also from the Shire website in regards to the applicable structure plan relative to that property. I'd also say that the Proponents Association to the Family Civil Earth Moving Contract Business also is why I don't accept the proponents not being aware of the building envelope requirements. I do not accept that the vegetation clearing was required for fire mitigation purposes and asset protection due to the sheer extent of the vegetation clearing that occurred. and it occurred on every square metre of the ground. No vegetation was left untouched by the earth-moving machines. It is inconceivable that a local prominent family-owned civil earth-moving business operating for 20 years in Mouchet, who services the surrounding areas of Chittering, Bullsbrook, Swan Valley, Gingin and the Shire of Dandaragan would not be aware of the EPA's vegetation clearing regulations, building envelopes and the requirements for development approval for a building envelope relocation before the commencement of any site works. Approval of this proposal would create a dangerous precedence, whereby a landowner can undertake unauthorised clearing of high-value native vegetation and destroy sensitive fauna habitat without a permit and without penalty. Approval of this application goes against the community's strategic priorities, and they are to protect and preserve the natural beauty of the area. And these are covered in our strategic community plan, obviously our local planning scheme number 6, the local structure plan for Lot 8 Buckford Drive, our local biodiversity strategy, and our general local planning strategy. The EPA Act expressly prohibits the clearing of native vegetation without a permit or exemption. DWER publishes a fact sheet, and it's called Clearing Regulation Fact Sheet, that places the responsibility on the earthworks contractor to be satisfied that the clearing is authorised under the EPA Act, and it requires them to familiarise themselves with the requirement of the clearing permit and relevant documentation and exemptions. The consequence of this responsibility is that any contractor who clears native vegetation without relevant permit may be prosecuted under the EPA Act, of which there is a maximum penalty of unauthorised clearing of native vegetation of around $500,000 and daily penalties that apply. I find it implausible that the proponent and the proponent's earth-moving contractor did not know that clearing of native vegetation requires a permit or exemption. I also find it implausible that the proponent was not aware of the structure plan and the objectives of that plan to preserve the identified high-value natural vegetation. I also find it implausible that the proponent was not aware of the requirement to obtain development approval for a building envelope relocation prior to any works being undertaken. No other adjoining properties have conducted unauthorised clearings, and they have managed to remain within their building envelope and maintain their BEL ratings. So on this basis, I support the officer's recommendation. Okay, councillors. Anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. Whilst I do appreciate that we are not endorsing any of the clearing without a permit, the subject of the application is a relocation of the building envelope, and the extensive other clearing has only been brought to light in this application because we've been asked to assess whether or not the building envelope can change. Whether or not the rest of the clearing has happened without a permit, that is DWER's decision to follow that up. The proponent has expressed that he has done the wrong thing, he's aware of this and he's willing to make amends. He's already begun to do so. I feel like it would be throwing the baby out with the bathwater when there is a solution that this bushland can be offset and rehabilitated, which is why I propose the alternative motion, which will actually specify specifically how that will happen, whereas that recommendation before us doesn't actually have any of those details specified how the rehabilitation will happen. It doesn't direct any rehabilitation to be done actually. It just says that it's going to be referred to DWER, which we can't actually specify to them what they're going to do about it. So I'm opposed to this in favour of my alternative motion, which will set out exactly how that'll be offset and will, I believe, have a better environmental outcome because there'll be more incentive for this bushland to be rehabilitated and looked after The Carnaby cockatoo nesting boxes will immediately offset lost habitat. Then it's the fodder and other things which are relatively fast to grow, and also their proponent has a willingness to work with Chittering Land Care for the plant lists, and a consultant will do the rehabilitation plan in my alternative motion. So I hope that that will get up this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillors?
I'll speak.
Councillor Campbell?
So, opposed to the officer's recommendation, the proponent has on numerous occasions apologised for the error he made in clearing the land that was for the building envelope, and obviously has been offered to rehabilitate and erect additional nesting hollows, meaning he's correct his error. I acknowledge that there are repercussions for doing things that are contravening our policy, but just with what was presented tonight, pretty much would mitigate that. Well, there would be a repercussion to there would be a penalty. I suppose my main concern is, whilst the proponent is related to Hall Hall, he may not have used Hall Hall to do the clearing. So connecting the two is probably not a reasonable argument. It's he could have done it himself, or he could have got another third-party contractor. So whilst there is that family connection, I don't think it's a relevant argument. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillors? Councillor Angus?
I'm really sitting on the fence with this. I certainly feel sorry for the applicant and what he's going through, but we put standards there for a reason. He admits that he bought privately through a landowner, not a real estate, but the evidence is obviously there that there was documentation with a picture showing where the building envelope should have been, which the settlement agent should have provided to you. It's very unfortunate if they didn't. Appreciate the fact that you've gone to lengths to protect the area from fire and put cockatoo tubes in the trees to accommodate the birds, but we've lost some high value native vegetation, which is what most of our community here appreciate Chittering for. So this is really hard, but I feel I have to support the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Angus, councillors? Councillor Ross?
Thanks, Mr. President. I share the views that Councillor Angus has just expressed. I understand that this is a nightmare for the applicant, that they have found themselves in a position that they didn't anticipate would unfold, but nothing changes the reality that a very large parcel of land has been cleared, and there's kind of no going back. You can revegetate, but that of course is a slow process. I appreciate that the landowner does wish to do whatever can be done to, if you like, undo the damage. But as Councillor King said, this is a shire where people come here because of the quality of the environment that they're moving into. And so we need to maintain that as a very high priority in our decision making. I'm mindful of the applicant's comment that this is the first land purchase he's made, and I imagine that's the case for very many of our residents in the lower Chittering area. It's always the rule with land in particular, that the old Latin expression caveat emptor, buyer beware, that it is the buyer's obligation and responsibility to do absolutely thorough research about any requirements that relate to the parcel of land that they're buying. So with some misgivings, I also support the officer recommendation, but I certainly understand that the owner is in a very untenable position, and I appreciate his willingness to do what can be done to mitigate the damage that has been done to the land there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dewar, anything from you? Councillor Curtis, you have a right of reply.
Nothing much more to add, Mr. President, but yeah, ignorance is no defence, and in law. So, got to wear it, you know. Unfortunately, we've got laws to, that's why we've got bylaws and all that stuff. We've just got to stick to it. I think we should make it a lot harder for these to change building envelopes and any sort of anything to do with the land holdings, because we're losing a lot of native vegetation.
Thanks, Councillor Curtis.
Something done.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillors, that is right of reply. Councillor, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? 4, against? 3. The officer's recommendation has been carried 4-3. The next item of business is 1 minute. Is it D or S? Yes, that's right.
That's D.
I think it's D. The next item of business is DS03 0425, application for development approval, outbuilding with reduced setbacks, 74 Devon Way, Lower Chittering. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis, fire today. Seconder, please, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Curtis.
Mr. President, I support the officer's recommendation to refuse this application. Mainly it goes against our planning setback regulations, so no, I won't support it.
Thank you,
I
Councillor.
will support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation. Some of the points raised in deputation from the owner of the property, such as the planting of hedges and the screening of those sort of things, isn't actually going to be possible with that reduced setback due to you have to have a fire break through there. It would actually make it more dangerous for your property not to have the fire break and plant vegetation in that area. So I think that there is other areas where this can go that would be more appropriate on that block. So happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak again for the officer's recommendation? Sorry.
Thank you.
Councillor Angus.
I also would like to support the officer's recommendation. I am aware again that the people who want to build the shed have some little knowledge of what is allowable and what isn't, and that again is unfortunate. And as I said last week, I think we need to discuss at some stage perhaps a welcome package for new landowners, even if it's to say please refer to the policies. And you need to maintain a neighbourly relationship, and if you're starting with a shed that you see as perhaps a visual barrier and a noise barrier, they will have this visual impact that might not please them as much as it pleases you. Yes, there might be voice noises, there might be music noises, but someone who sees a big shed going up, they're not thinking about those noises. They're just thinking about the work noises and drills and hammers and things that might go on in a shed outside their bedroom. So I will definitely support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillors? Councillor Ross?
Thanks, Mr. President. I think, as we've seen from the deputation, there is scope on this site for the shed to be elsewhere. It doesn't have to be where the owners have applied for, so there are other options. And I appreciate the deputation from the neighbour that the impact on amenity of a shed being directly opposite someone's bedroom is most unpleasant. So to me, that asking for the reduced setback, I think, is unwarranted, and so I support the officer recommendation to refuse the application.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anything else? I'll speak to the matter now. I also support the officer's recommendation. These setbacks are deliberate to ensure people maintain reasonable separation distances from other properties, and so that we can all enjoy the rural amenity of the land. It's inherently costly building on rural blocks, whether it's flat or whether it's undulating and you've got to do more earthworks. And I understand the deputation around the costs. I completely do. I built from scratch myself 20 years ago. But it is an expense that you have to accept building in a rural block. I don't think it's acceptable to want to move something because of the additional cost, particularly when it alters setback and potentially has an impact on the neighbouring properties. It's unfortunate, but it's a part of living in the rural community that you have additional costs, and so I don't find it as a compelling argument that the setback should be reduced in half due to cost, because we all bear the same costs. So I support the officer's recommendation. Councillor, no other further comment? Who was the mover? Councillor Curtis, you were the mover? Right of reply?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. Show of hands, all in favour? Carried, 7-0, thank you. Next item of business, CS 040425, application for development approval, building envelope expansion and ancillary accommodation, 99 lot 71 Ridgetop Ramble, Bindoon. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Angus, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Curtis. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. This is not to actually move the building envelope, but just to amend it and enlarge it to allow for a granny flat type building. And having everywhere else on the block is quite a steep incline, which is not appropriate land to build a granny flat. Old people don't like big hills. So I am happy to support this amendment to the building envelope.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, I support the officer's recommendation. But anyway, I know the block is pretty steep, but they've had a building envelope on that.
Councillor Curtis, can you turn your mic on?
Sorry. Well, they've had a building envelope on that since they put in, well, forever, hasn't it? Anyway, that's a steep block, so they knew that they couldn't build anywhere else, so I mean, you can't keep expanding their building envelope. And the next door neighbours, they've complained about it, and I think they got a pretty good objection there, so I'm not going to support it.
Okay, Councillor Curtis.
No, I'll support the
Generally
officer's recommendation anyway.
Generally the mover and the seconder support.
He says he's supporting the officer's recommendation.
Oh, you're supporting the officer's recommendation?
Eh?
Are you supporting the officer's recommendation or not? I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm supporting the officer's recommendation. I'm not to approve it.
The recommendation is to approve.
No, I'm not going to approve it. I've got it mixed up. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Just so that I don't get confused. All right. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for?
We need another person to speak for.
We need someone to speak for, yes. Councillor Ross, yes.
Really just to make the comment that I am heartened by the degree of detail in the officer recommendation, the number of conditions that are there that are quite rigid, stringent conditions, plus the advice notes. So these things always are difficult, they always have some challenges in them, but I think the level of detail in what we have in the recommendation gives me comfort that this is an appropriate way to proceed. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone else? Councillor Hughes.
Thanks. Not to speak against it, just to make some observations that it does certainly give us more control over an application like this when we do have the opportunity to put the conditions on and specify what they are, so that we are aware of what ultimately the decision is going to be at the time when we make it. So I am pleased that in this case there are those conditions of approval on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I'll talk to this one now. Support the officer's recommendation. That being I guess, an expansion of an existing envelope. It's not a relocation of a building envelope. It's simply an expansion, and I think it's consistent with where the original building envelope actually is. So, as opposed to our other items tonight, where they're proposing to change the building envelope. So, I support the officer's recommendation. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, the mover was Councillor Angus. You have right of reply.
I have nothing else to add, thank you.
Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried 5-1. And Councillor Curtis was... Sorry, 6-1. Sorry. 6-1. Can't count. 6-1. And Councillor Curtis was against. Next items are technical service, so there are nil items. We move on to corporate services. First item of business is CS010425, list of accounts paid for the period ending 31st of March 2025. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive the list of accounts. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Campbell. Seconder. Councillor Dewar. Councillor Campbell.
You just received the list of accounts paid for the period, so all in order.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Dewar.
Yeah, just agreeing with the officer's recommendation with this list of accounts paid. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell, do you require right of reply? No. Councillors, given that no one is speaking against the officer's recommendation, I will declare carried without dissent 7-0. Next item of business is CS020425, monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of March 2025. We have an officer's recommendation to receive the monthly financial report. Can I have a mover for that officer recommendation, please? Councillor Angus. Councillor Ross is the seconder, thank you. Councillor Angus.
Happy to receive the monthly financial report and note that the figures are compared to the adopted budget, and nothing else to add other than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just, I think, to confirm that comment that the information is clearly presented and things are tracking well at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Sorry. Anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation?
No.
Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Angus, right of reply?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, no one speaking against the officer's recommendation, and right of reply is not required, not sought. I'll declare carried without dissent, 7-0. Next section is Chief Executive Officer. First item of business is CEO01, Work, Health and Safety Statistic Report for March 2025. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive this report. Can I please have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell. Councillor Angus by delegation. Councillor Campbell.
I suppose always a good report to receive, monitoring all the health and safety statistics. So thank you for the report and carry on. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Angus.
Yep, happy to receive the report, so the monthly report for March and the quarterly report for January 25 to March 25. And happy to say that it appears we're keeping the CEO out of jail.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak to the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell, right of reply? Not required. Councillors, right of reply is not required, and no one speaking against the officer's recommendation. I'll declare carried without dissent, 7-0. Next item of business is CEO02, 0425. Support for Olga's 2025 federal election priorities. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to that effect. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Ross, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Angus. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. It's a fortunate position for small shires such as our own that the National Organisation of Local Government organises the points which need to be important for local government in the forthcoming federal election. On our own, we couldn't do the kind of lobbying and the kind of data analysis that they are able to do, and they're doing it on behalf of local government around the country. So it's very much to our benefit that they're doing that, and we don't have to fund it or find the labour to do it ourselves. So I'm very happy to support this and grateful that ALGA does this work on our behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. Just to clarify that because this is to do with the federal election priorities, it's not that we're supporting any particular party, but purely the National Put Our Communities First campaign, which is that we're fighting for 5 funding priorities to be distributed equally, well, on pro rata in the local governments. So really important that we have our hand up to get our share and make sure the pressure's on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Dewar.
Well, it's a little bit surprising that an election's coming up and all these election promises have been brought up. So saying that it's not political, I would really doubt. And just going on all this funding that's supposed to come out to local governments, we had a very big and important initiative, the Bindoon bypass, and it was all ready to go. And a couple of elections come around, and all of a sudden, those all that money's been softened elsewhere. So it's pretty hard to support federal election priorities in terms of funding because there's a strong chance it's simply not going to happen. I'll rest my case.
Thank you, thank you, Judge. Councillor Dewar, thank you. Councillors, anyone speaking for officer's recommendation?
Right of reply.
Right of reply, Councillor Ross, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. President. If I may just clarify a point that the CEO may know, Mr. President. The bypass funding is predominantly federal money, I think, and that's not what's in question. It's the state commitment to go ahead and contribute their funding. Am I correct, or is that?
This says federal election promise.
Can I just clarify? I think where there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding is that this is the Australian local government association, which we belong to by virtue of being a local government, and we are lobbying government, whichever government comes into play after the elections, to set aside these buckets of money to be distributed to local governments. So it doesn't matter which political party will be in the parliament. We are advocating for funding for infrastructure, for community infrastructure, for safer roads, and that money would then filter through on the basis and be distributed similar to the federal grants that we receive that are untied, and that is what our association of local governments are lobbying for on our behalf.
Okay, does that clear that up?
I think nothing more to add, Mr President, just reiterate the points I made before.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ross. All right, given there was some commentary there, further information provided to the CEO, I'll put this officer recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried 6-1. Next item is CEO 03-0425, Chief Executive Officer Performance Review. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation that by absolute majority to endorse the outcome of the review of the Chief Executive Officer's performance. Offer the Chief Executive Officer an extension of employment for a further 5 years, beginning 28th February 2030. Endorse the agreed remuneration package as per the attachment, and yes. Oh, you've changed the order on me, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay, I won't go through them all. You've got it up on the screen. My sheet's slightly different.
Can I make a question for the Chair? Was there an add-on just put in?
It's on there, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So we've added on the
Number point five, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
All right, so it's on the screen there. We'll need a mover, please. Councillor Angus. A seconder, please. Councillor Curtis. Councillor Angus.
I'm happy to support this recommendation. We've had numerous workshops, lots of emails backwards and forwards, and a huge amount of work by our President after hours, keeping him up all night. Thank you for that hard work, and thank you, Melinda, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, I support the officer's recommendation. We're lucky we're going to have a CEO that sticks around for, quite a long time. We've been through a lot of CEOs lately, so it's great. And thank Mr. President for your input and doing all the hard work you've done.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. What I didn't mention was the CEO's disclosure of interest, which I should have mentioned, which is just a proximity, not even a proximity.
Financial.
It's a financial. So apologies for not mentioning that. Councillors, anyone wish to speak against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Ross, thank you.
Thanks, Mr President. Probably just to elaborate on a couple of the points in it for those who are not familiar with this process. In point 2, we came to a view that we should offer a contract extension for 5 years, and that's because in local government things often take a long time to come to fruition. Many projects that are undertaken are long term, and if you have CEO turnover too often, you lose traction and you often go backwards before you go forwards. So we believe that by offering 5 years, that will give us better stability in the role. And concerning point 3, there's reference there to SAT Band 3. No local government has the right to simply say, here's $10 million for the year. There are strict guidelines, a strict band of the dollar value of salaries and the kind of benefits that can be provided. So just to assure those in the gallery that there are limitations in place, there are requirements in place about what salary packaging can be done and what the salary level is. Thanks, Mr President.
Thanks, Councillor Ross. Councillor, any other? Councillor Dewar?
Yeah, just to add on to some of the comments that have been put forward. A very thorough, arduous process, this one, where we review the performance of the CEO. So, you know, we've really pushed ourselves to a next level trying to sort all this stuff out. Personal thanks to the President over there, who did lots and lots of work, very thorough, very, very professional as per usual. And just secondly, I'm so glad to have, at this point in time, a CEO for another 5 years, because she's probably our best asset in the Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillors?
I'd like to add just to the CEO. I suppose it's difficult to manage 7 different people telling you what to do or requesting you to do things for us. So I acknowledge it challenging at times, but you've done an excellent job for the past 2.5 years, I think it is. So just commend you for your commitment to the region and the Shire and all the ratepayers. So you have provided a bit of stability and transparency within in the Shire. So thank you.
Councillor Campbell? Councillor Hughes, anything?
Nothing more to add. I agree with all of the comments and very pleased that our CEO hopefully will agree to carry on for another 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. It's my turn. Thank you, councillors, for your appreciation for the work. It certainly was a fair bit more effort than I'd intended, but nevertheless I think it was a thorough process, and I think what I take away from it is that council was very objective in its review of the CEO's performance, and I think you know, we've had a fair bit of staff turnover on the CEOs in previous years. It's good to have some continuity going forward with a very much of a local focus, and also having transparency and accountability into the local government operations, where we struggled with some of those transparencies with prior CEOs. So I think you know, we couldn't do much better. We don't want to try and do much better, because the process is even worse. So we look forward to the next 5 years of continuing development of the community and building those relationships. So thank you to Melinda and all of council for your support in this process. Melinda, do you want to say anything? This is a meeting of council, but you're welcome to.
Well, maybe I should let council vote first, but just thank you very much for the... Thank you very much for the support from council. It's not always easy, but it's always, as I've said from the onset, that I live and breathe the Shire. I love my staff, and I try my best to make every day a happy day for everybody in the Shire.
Thank you, Melinda. Now we'll vote. Apologies.
Right
a reply for Councillor Angus.
Thank you. I don't think there's anything left to say. Thank you.
You just wanted to say that, didn't you? All right. Okay, councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, 7-0. So welcome to remaining.
Still got a job.
Still got a job. All right. So next item of business is CEO 040425, Chittering Tourism Advisory Group, which is just being edited. We have an officer's recommendation here that council dissolve the Chittering Tourism Advisory Group and deliver tourism and report on tourism activities in accordance with the Shire of Chittering Economic Development and Tourism Strategy. And you'll be aware that we had a deputation. We had a question, I think it was. And this requires a simple majority. Oh, there's an alternative. And no, it's not an alternative. It is an alternative. Yes, there is an alternative. Apologies. So you're aware that there is an alternative motion on the table should the officer's recommendation be lost. Okay, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Well, I'm happy to move it. So. Can I have a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Dewar. Okay, right. As the mover, I'll talk to it first. Look, my view is that the terms and reference and the role that the Chittering Tourism Advisory Group played has changed dramatically since it was first conceived, and I support all the work that they've done, and I thank them for everything that's been done. However, I think that it needs a rethink about what the terms of reference would be, and also pending the review of the economic development and tourism strategy. Now, I'm not sure when that's going to occur, but I'm also conscious that there's a local government election coming up in October, and I feel that it should really be in my view, should be the new council that decides what the term of reference should be, because it needs to be set for the long term. It's only 6 months until less than 6 months, roundabout, to the local government elections. And I'm not trying to pass off my responsibility as a councillor, but I feel that the incoming council should have a 100% say on the terms of reference and who actually is nominated to represent council on this group. So that's why I approve. I support the officer's recommendation. Councillor Dewar? Nothing. Councillor, is anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross?
Thanks, Mr. President. For the Shire of Chittering, tourism has been a key priority in the last few years. During this time, the Shire has invested heavily in the development of tourism infrastructure, particularly the Bindoon Mountain Bike Park. This investment, currently well over $1 million in expenditure, represents a substantial cost for a small shire like ours. One of the objectives of the mountain bike park is to attract visitors, tourists, to the Shire in the hope that the businesses of the Shire will derive economic benefit from their presence. With such strong investment in tourism, Council needs to be well informed of the benefits this facility is providing to the community and businesses. CTAG has been an effective mechanism to receive that information, with its meetings including updates on the mountain bike park since its construction and opening. Should it not continue, Council will still be keen to know the impact of this facility. Unfortunately, CTAG has not met since August 24, which is 8 months, with the November meeting being cancelled at short notice and without consultation. Despite there being a number of topics that would benefit from the input of this group, it hasn't met, and since that meeting, no tourism statistics have been presented to Council, which would normally have come through the minutes. Among the contributions of CTAG have been undertaking a formal review of Taste of Chittering, facilitated externally, to draw up the purpose, objectives, target audience, etc., that this key Shire event should achieve. CTAG has also reviewed and helped to interpret the meaning of visitor numbers, identified small and large issues around the Shire where some action is needed, and provided useful background information to Shire officers about tourism in this Shire. It is important to remember that the minutes of CTAG do come to Council and therefore also become a public document, keeping Council and the community informed about tourism in the Shire. In contrast, the minutes of the Chittering Tourism and Business Association are confidential to them, as they should be. So if CTAG is disbanded, a new mechanism will need to be developed by Shire officers to brief Council on tourism in the Shire. At its inception, CTAG had the then Economic Development Officer as a member, who had extensive tourism experience, including organising Taste of Chittering, and he was the key driver in the development of the mountain bike park. The subsequent ongoing turnover of staff in the areas of economic and community development is itself an indication of why CTAG has value. Staff turnover usually involves a loss of corporate knowledge, no matter how careful record keeping is. The external members of CTAG are mostly long-term members of the community who are involved in tourism in some way. They are able to provide the background to the many items on the agenda, which is generally helpful for those responsible for decision making at a strategic and operational level. The current Economic and Tourism Development Officer is part-time, shared with Victoria Plains, new to the role and new to the Shire. It makes sense that the committee continues in order to provide support to her as she learns more about the Shire's offerings. The briefing papers mention individual meetings with the President of the Chittering Tourist and Business Association as a mechanism for receiving industry input. CBTA is a regional organisation, currently in the process of removing the word Chittering from its name. As at December 24, it had about 50 members from Chittering and surrounding shires. Council has not been provided with information in our papers about the consultation processes that the Chittering Business and Tourist Association uses to gather industry information, either from its members or the broader tourism and business community in the Shire. Regardless of the capability of CBTA to provide tourism industry input, relying so heavily on one person or organisation as a source of information is an inadequate approach to collecting information. Our papers don't provide information about other proposed mechanisms to gather input. Our briefing papers also state that the Economic Development and Tourism Strategy is to be reviewed this year, and it is timely, a good thing, that that review is about to be undertaken. If this is to proceed, then to disband CTAG is premature. Indeed, my hope would be that CTAG would be consulted in the review process. Whether or not that happens, reviewing CTAG's terms of reference and its past and potential contribution would comprise a valuable element of that review and would hopefully then lead to a recommendation to Council about options for its future. It would be valuable, therefore, to continue the operation of CTAG until the review of the Economic Development and Tourism Strategy is undertaken and its findings and recommendations are made available to Council. For this reason, I will not support the officer recommendation we have before us, and I invite councillors to consider the alternative motion prepared for this item. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors. Councillor Campbell.
I'll speak against it. Should Councillor Ross's motion not get up, I'd like to acknowledge the group members Tamika Preston, Chris Waldy, Evelyn Brown, Chris Evans and Natalie Valence for their contribution made to CTAG over the past few years, and acknowledge Councillor Ross's leadership and involvement. I found the CTAG very informative in my short time as a member, and valuable information was shared amongst the group. I would like to see the CTAG group give another opportunity now that we have a newly appointed Economic Development Tourist Officer, for all the reasons that Councillor Ross has presented before me. So I would support Councillor Ross' motion.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillors? Councillor Angus?
I have also changed my mind after listening to Councillor Ross, and will not support the officer recommendation. It hadn't dawned on me until hearing Councillor Ross speak that we haven't had any information on tourism in our Shire for the last however long, where we used to get all those statistics and we had an idea of what was going on and where we needed to work and where we didn't. And the fact that the other groups, the CTBA, their minutes are confidential, whereas CTAG's come to us, I think is very important. We need to know what's going on and what we need to work on. So I'm very interested to hear Councillor Ross's alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Curtis?
I don't know what to do here. I support the officer of the CTA. I'd like to know why they... I suppose I can't ask the question, can I?
What question do you want to ask?
I want to know why they can't provide the information to the council, CTA, the CBA, or what are they called?
CTBA.
CBA. Why don't they want to provide information to us if they want to be involved with the tourism?
Yes, I'll ask the Chief Executive Officer to reply to that one.
So the CTBA is a standalone association.
Yep.
The CTAG was an advisory group for
Yeah,
council.
I understand
So
that.
with the since council has adopted the Chittering Economic Development and Tourism Plan, that information should have come from us to council because that is in the plans. So
But
I
if
think
they,
the reason why it's not come from council or to council when the meetings hadn't happened is a failure on the Shire's side to not have provided that information
No.
because the Shire provided it to the CTAC and then it came to the minutes, but it should have come directly to council.
did the business association having meetings and that?
Yes, they do.
And they don't provide any feedback to us about what they want and do? What's the point?
Can I ask?
They want to be involved with us, but they want to keep,
Can I
I
just-
don't know.
Can I just answer?
Yes.
So, the CTBA plays a valuable role for the all the tourism and other businesses in the district now to share ideas with each other. However, the only input that we have there or engagement we have to get information from them is through us attending those meetings. And in a perfect world, that information that we need from them would come from our officers attending that meeting back to council.
They
So
don't
it's not
attend our
that, it's
meetings.
not that, I just want to make it clear that it's not that the CTBA does not want to engage with council. That is,
They don't come to our meetings, I don't think, do they?
We're having a discussion now. So, any other statements you wish to make, arguments?
No, that's...
Okay, Councillor Curtis, Councillor Hughes, anything from you?
Just to probably ask a few questions. How long has our new economic development manager, or whatever her job title is at the moment, been in the Shire? She's newly employed.
Yes.
And how long was that position sort of vacant previously?
I'd say 2.5 to 3 years.
So would it be a fair estimate that the CTAG was in operation during that period when there was no one from the Shire specifically in that role?
There was the tourism, the person responsible for tourism events that managed that meeting, but not in the intended economic development capacity, which ideally would be where you would have the tourism sit under that.
Thank you. And just to reiterate that I personally have chaired their AGMs on a number of occasions when they were under their previous name, so that I don't feel that council's been excluded or that they've been secretive in their conduct, and I've attended quite a few of their events in the past. I feel like it was running a bit better when Ewan was in the role because he was quite well networked, and I feel like there has been that gap when there wasn't somebody else in that role that was had that same capacity. So I feel like this review may identify some and fill some of those gaps that have been there over the past few years. So I'm a little undecided on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. You finished? Yep. Okay. Write a reply. To me, the officer's recommendation to dissolve the CTAG is not to diminish CTAG's role that they've played in the community over the previous years. In fact, I think it more resembles the fact that there needs to be a regrouping and to understand what the way forward is and what role CTAG will play going forward. And so that really is what this is aiming to do. There is opportunity for council to restore CTAG at a later date. So this is not the end of CTAG in my view. This is simply a pause because and to allow council to continue with its development of its tourism strategy. and then really work out what they want out of CTAG. I think this places the alternative motion, which I'll talk to later, places undue burdens on the administration for no gain at the moment. So, and as I mentioned previously, there's a local government election coming up in October, and I think it really should be the new council that take this forward for the longer term, and they have a bit of skin in the game as part of that process. So, for that reason, I still support the officer's recommendation. All right, councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 3, 4, lost. So that officer's recommendation was lost, so we move to the alternative motion. Council. So, Council, we have an alternative motion. I need a mover for the alternative motion. Councillor Ross, thank you. Can I have a seconder for the alternative motion?
Oh, I haven't read it yet. I haven't read it.
Councillor Ross, perhaps you might, as the mover, you just might want to read through out loud the alternative motion.
Please to Mr. President. So the first point is that Council should defer any decision making about the Chittering Tourism Advisory Committee until the planned review of the economic development and tourism strategy is completed and endorsed by Council. That it requires the above review to include consideration of consultation processes relating to the tourism industry, including reviewing the terms of reference of CTAG, and that it directs the CEO to actually that should be continued to convene meetings, which would usually be 3 per year, of the Chittering Tourism Advisory Group until points 1 and 2 of this decision of this motion have been completed, and recommendations are made to Council concerning the value of continuing or disbanding the Chittering Tourism Advisory Group.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Ross, you can speak to that now. Thank you.
I think the points, I've probably said most of what I wish to say in the previous motion. I pick up Councillor King's point from the previous debate that there's something like a 6 or 7 month period between now and the next local government election. That's not a long time, and it seems to me there's no reason whatever why this group shouldn't continue to meet in that period of time. It is unfortunate that there's already been an 8-month gap between meetings, but I believe it's important that it should continue and that it should meet during this intervening time. It ought to be a key factor in the review of the economic and tourism development strategy, and if we do some more work in that time about what are the input processes that we want for consulting the industry, then I think that's important. If we get to a point after the review where a recommendation comes to Council to say, look, we don't need the committee anymore, we've got other things in place, that will be fine. But to my thinking, we haven't followed a good process. We were offered a recommendation that I thought wasn't suited to our situation, and I think much more can be achieved by continuing to have this committee in place and meeting for the next 8 months, for the next 6 or 7 months, whatever it is. I guess the other point I would make, it certainly is the right and probably the obligation of a newly elected council to review all of its committees when it's elected and decide which ones it particularly wants to have. But they're probably not going to do it in the first month or two because they themselves will want to get a feel for their position. There could be 3 new councillors at this table by the end of the year. So I think it's probably more than to the next election. It's probably a little longer until the next council is ready to make some decisions about what committees it wants in place. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councillor Ross. Councillor Campbell.
I suppose I said earlier, I suppose Councillor Ross has summarised it very well. I suppose the whole election story, I think we'd rather have some continuity before the election. I would hate to lose Councillor Ross with all the knowledge she has, and if she doesn't stand again, we lose a lot of wealth of information. Whilst there is a group of people who can also provide some consistency. So I just think it's we stand to lose more than we'll gain by disbanding it now.
Councillor, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation?
We're not voting for the alternative motion, are we?
Yeah, the alternative motion. Sorry, the alternative motion. Are you voting? Are you speaking against or for?
I'll support it for now and until the election. So I don't know what will happen after then,
Okay.
but
That's fine. I'll call for you in a minute. I'll speak against. I guess, again, my views obviously different to others. You know, if a group hasn't met in 8 months, what is 6 months between now and the local government election mean? It has no bearing on time. And I think the feedback that council is looking for can be easily provided by the economic development officer, particularly on how the economic development is actually progressing. And that really is what the role of the economic development officer is. So I don't feel that dissolving the group removes access to information. I just think it gives council the time to reassess really what the CTAG or another group, whatever it should be, whatever they call it in the future, what its terms of reference and purpose are, and such that the new council can certainly get some skin in the game and be part of that decision-making process. Nevertheless, my view, someone else speaking for the officer's recommendation. Councillor Angus.
I'm happy to support the alternative motion. It still leaves the option there that if after the tourism strategy review is finished, if we decide we don't need CTAG anymore, it will be dissolved. But in the meantime, they can probably work with the new economic development officer and gain some useful information. I'm happy for them to continue until the tourism strategy is completed.
Can I speak against this alternative motion? I believe it's been 8 months since there's been a meeting, and the other councillors have just been mentioning that it's, I think, about 6 months to council election, and then there's going to be some sort of lag time of maybe another couple of months. So that's 16 months. This CTAG hasn't been doing a huge amount that I'm aware of. I think that's a very, very long time to hang on to a advisory group. I mean, how much latitude or leeway do you give these community groups to get on and do what they're actually supposed to do? It just, to me, it seems quite inefficient. Although I know tourism is very important to the Shire, but it just seems there needs to be possibly a regrouping there and some changes, and then possibly they could come back later.
So with the indulgence of council, just a quick question of the CEO. When is the economic development tourism strategy to be completed? When is it date? When's its date?
It has been completed. We are implementing it. It just needs a review now.
And when's that going to be completed?
And I haven't got the date for the review. It would be with these other reviews that are coming up. I haven't got a date.
Mr. President, just in our briefing notes, just immediately before the officer recommendation, it says officers commence a review of the 2021-2031 economic development and tourism strategy, which will include broad community and stakeholder engagement. Now, I'm assuming when it says officers will commence a review that we're talking about soon, like this year, so that's in our papers.
Yeah, well,
This financial year, this calendar year?
I guess we've all had a chance to speak. My only question was just around understanding when that review was going to... If this review wasn't going to be completed until say, after October, then that was an important date that needed to be contained within the officer's item, and so the councils could reflect on the original officer's recommendation and also the alternative. And it dawned on me that there was no date in there. And so that's why I just wanted to put it on the table, put that, get some clarity on that date. So So clarity on the date. It doesn't have to be an exact day, but what month? Is it we're in April now, is it May, June, July, August, September, October? Which month do you think that's coming back? Does anyone have a date?
I would venture a guess to say August or September.
I feel it's a priority for the officer. So she's made her budget submissions, which would include whatever provision she requires for it, but there's no fixed date for the commencement of it yet.
I think that just needs to be clear. There is currently no fixed date, other than it looks like around Q3.
Q2.
Q2 this year.
Yes, it starts in July.
Yeah, but when the report's going to be received. So we're not talking August, September. We're getting bloody close to, excuse my language, to October. That's all. I just think it needs to be. I guess it's just got to be understood that I think that's an important detail that's probably missing out of the officer's report. In hindsight, we all have the benefit of hindsight. All right, we'll leave that one then. So Councillor Ross moved, Councillor Campbell seconded, Councillor speaking, Councillor Hughes.
Not speaking against, but just in lieu of the officer recommended motion failing, I feel that this is a good alternative motion which still gives direction for something to happen and for that decision to come back to council. So we will be happy to support the alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anyone else? All right, Councillor Ross, you have right of reply.
Thanks, Mr President. Just to respond to a couple of the points that Councillor Dewar made about what's the committee been doing. It has been a busy advisory group, rather. I'll just reread that paragraph. Among its achievements have been undertaking the formal review of Taste of Chittering using an external consultant, and that drew up what is now the guiding template for Taste of Chittering going forward in the Shire, and it includes the purpose, objectives and target audience and a few other things. It also routinely reviews and helps to interpret the meaning of visitor numbers, because you often need people who are operators around the area to actually make sense, especially when there has been fairly high staff turnover in this area. They have contributed on the ground information about issues that visitors face and benefits that visitors derive. So that's been very useful background for Shire officers, especially when they are often fairly new to their role, or as the CEO has indicated, the whole of tourism hasn't been their role. Part of tourism, like events or something else, has been their role. So it's actually been the contribution it has made is expert knowledge and stability and continuity. And just to clarify, it isn't a community group. This is an advisory group of council that council establishes and council appoints its external members to. So my view is that continuing to call meetings to overcome this gap that we've had, because there are lots of things going on in tourism, so that the discussions are happening and the information is gathered in the minutes and come back to council. And once the economic development and tourism strategy are completed, then presumably there will be solid guidance about either here is the new role for that committee, here are the revised terms of reference, or there will be a recommendation that says, look, really, we don't need it anymore. But it will have been part of that overall review process, and I believe that's a sound way to proceed. Thanks, Mr President.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ross. That was right reply. Councillors, I'll put the alternative motion to the vote. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? 2. Carried. 5-2. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Next item of business, CO05 0425, facility fees and charges review. Voting requirements is a simple majority. Councillors, you have the officer's recommendation. We just move to the section. Apologies, I'll get there on that. Okay, there we go. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Hughes, that was quick. Seconder, please. Someone's got a second. Councillor Angus. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. I really like this officer recommendation insofar as it seeks to formalise fees across all of the facilities. This was what our main goal was when we did the facilities review, was that we've been rolling out all of the user agreements, trying to make it more fair between facilities and users, and I think that this is a very good reflection of what the objectives of that facility review were. I think also it does reflect that, particularly with the Mushay Rec Centre, there was a lot of involvement from those community groups in getting that facility up and going and making sure that it was the quality facility that we have, and I feel that should other facilities be developed, that would also be the option available for those users down the track as well. So I'm happy to support this officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Sorry, I lost. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. I'm also happy to support this officer recommendation. I think it's important to acknowledge the difference between the different users. Commercial users who are making a profit should pay more than educational institutions who we want to see our kids educated, but they also get a monetary funding from the government, and the community and sporting groups paying even less, because we want to acknowledge the value of the volunteers that work with those groups. So I think it's important to see the difference have the different levels of fees, and I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Council, is anyone speaking against the officer recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for?
I'm speaking for, but I would like to make an amendment. So basically agree with the commercial fee, 100%, but I believe the educational fee needs to be bundled in with the community and sporting group. And why I say that is a lot of the residents, their kids go to either Bindoon or Immaculate Heart, or would have been the school up the road. The parents pay rates and should have fair access to the facilities. And I appreciate Mushay Rec Centre, they had the user group and they raised funds and they contributed significant amount of time and labour and some kind of investment. But to create a second rate for an educational facility, I don't think is fair. Like I say, we all pay rates for our kids to use these facilities, and it should be fair and equal for everyone. So that's pretty much just bundling in the educational with the sporting and community groups.
Okay. So your amendment is to rewrite the lot.
I did make an error. I was meant to send the email through this afternoon, but I didn't hit send.
All right, so the amendment will be delete on 1A, delete annual user fee educational institution. So are you wanting to roll, so let's just pick that one. So that, are you planning to roll the Education Institute into under sporting groups for the same fee?
Yeah.
All right, so it'll be delete annual user fee educational institution per facility $400 plus GST.
Actually, just combine these two at the fee of them.
Well, you got to delete one first.
If you combine them, it automatically takes care of all the duplication and just adds the...
Yeah, but he doesn't want 400, he wants 300.
So what I'm saying is that we combine the user fee for education and community at the fee of the community.
Yeah, but you still have to delete that one.
education.
Yeah, that's right. You still have to delete it and then add, you've got to delete that line item and then add educational to the last bit. So the amendment should be...
This isn't education.
It is, yes. The amendment, I think, should be delete that line item and replace that one and put put educational in there. And then that's the amendment, yeah?
Can we just change the value, make it all the same value? So you can see
they're in every group, right? So if you're doing an A, B, C, D, and E...
It would be the same effect if it changes this
If you just make
education
the
to be
value
the same amount.
All right, so okay. Whichever
I
happens, one has to be deleted.
I suppose it still does provide definition of the difference between a community group and a
category.
school.
Yep.
Yeah, even if you make the price the same, there still is more detail.
Maybe that's the easy way. Just change the value to the 300 and then keep the rest. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 amendments. Okay, you can do it that way. That might be the simpler way.
So can we just have some clarification on exactly what's going on here, please?
So Councillor Campbell wants to make an amendment to the officer's recommendation that the annual user fee for the educational institutes is the same as the community and sporting groups under item A to E. Right. So he's proposing an amendment that would effectively just change that each line item to the new value. That would be the simplest way. Then we don't have to delete anything else.
So I'm a little bit confused. I'm seeing wombats, that everything's dropping off the screen up there.
You got to write it before you can still need to see it before you can second it.
The wombats put me off.
Hang on, just wait. Let's get this up on the screen first, and then we'll seek a seconder, and then just so that we're clear on what we're amending.
But wombats or badgers?
And then we'll seek a seconder.
Pretty sure you'll find they are.
Thank you.
That's yours. Thank you.
Yeah, come on.
I forgot he sent.
Get out of here.
Sorry.
I can't read that at all. What have we done?
It's just change the number, the figures.
To be the same.
Yeah, okay.
Typing wise, that's easier.
Yeah, I realise that now. Okay, so perhaps if you could humour us and just highlight the amendment in that in a different colour, or each one of those, so that we're aware of what the actual amendment is, because it's only those parts that have been amended, are proposed to be amended. And right, so that's the proposed amendment. I'll need a seconder for the proposed amendments. Can I have a seconder for the proposed amendments? Councillor Hughes. Okay. All right, so now we have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Campbell, you can talk to your amendments.
Yeah, I suppose I mentioned earlier, we're discriminating against our ratepayers who send kids to the local schools while paying an extra few $100s. I appreciate state government or even federal government look after schooling, but we have a duty to our residents to make sure they have fair and equal access to these facilities. They're Shire owned, they should have the same fee. For the educational. Commercial is a different story.
Understood. Councillor Hughes.
I am supportive of the amendment based on the reasoning that Councillor Campbell has pointed out, that the children's parents are ratepayers, and they also should be able to use our facilities, which they've contributed to elsewise in their rates. And this does still have the differentiation for the commercial included also. And just to reiterate that these fees are for review every year in the council budget process, so this isn't setting it in stone furthermore, so I'm happy to support that amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor, is anyone speaking against the amendment? Councillor Angus.
Yes, thank you. I agree that the parents are ratepayers. However, their children can use the facilities in the sporting groups or community groups for the reduced price, whereas the educational institutions receive funding to pay for facilities for these children. So if the education facilities get the funding, they should pass on a little bit to us to help maintain our facilities. The community and sporting groups, the children can use it through there. We get lots of volunteer help through there, contributing in that way, where the educational institutions are not volunteering their assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Insightful. Councillors? I guess, I found Councillor Angus's discussion insightful. I guess I really hadn't thought about it that way, but I guess you made a good point. Very good point that educational institutions are funded and community sporting groups are not. And so the higher fee represents the fact that they're funded through institutional, whether it's government or whether it's other means, grants through the educational system. So I will oppose the amendment. Councillors, anyone else? Okay, Councillor Campbell, right of reply.
I suppose if a private school, if an institution cannot afford to have a facility like a kitchen, at the end of the day, the children have to pay for it. So I appreciate there is funding, but certain schools in the area, and we're in a small rural community, they don't have access to the flash new facilities that new schools are afforded. So it's, yeah, I appreciate it is a state issue, but if we have the facility, let's share it equally. But yeah, I suppose let's put it to the vote.
Thanks, Councillor Campbell. All right, councillors, we'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? Against? 2 for, against 5. So the amendment was lost. Did I not end that up? And for the amendment was Councillor Campbell and was it Councillor Dewar, was it, sorry? Councillor Hughes.
Carried up there, it wasn't carried.
It was lost.
It's 4-3.
Sorry.
Yeah, 3-4.
It's 3-4, yeah.
That's why I just want to make
Sorry,
sure that's
sorry.
3-4.
Fudging the figures.
So the amendment was lost 3-4.
Oh, yeah. 3-4, sorry, I can't count either.
Just the amendment.
Just the amendment, sorry. Yes.
Lost, not carried.
Don't let me do maths at the moment.
And who were the 4 against?
The 4 against was Councillor Curtis, Councillor Angus, myself and Councillor Ross, I think. So you were for Councillor Hughes?
For the amendment.
Yes. Yeah. Right, so we got those names right. All right, Councillor, sorry for the confusion. My confusion. Councillor Campbell, it's back with you on the substantive motion.
No, I've got nothing further to add.
Okay, so that does. Councillor Hughes moved it. Sorry. Councillor Angus seconded. Councillor Campbell has spoken to it. Anyone else wish to speak to the substantive motion? Councillor Ross.
Just to comment, Mr President, about why, I suppose in a way why I didn't support the other and why I support the substantive motion. These are annual fees, they're not term fees or anything. So the difference is not more than 100 each time for an education facility. In the era we're in now, schools would generally have a budget of over $1 million a year. So although every dollar matters, we're not talking about huge differences in the fees, but we are putting something there to indicate that it is a different kind of user. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Well put, Councillor Ross. All right. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hughes, you have a right of reply.
The only thing that I would add is that schools that have a PNC, the PNC can also run fundraisers and things like that, because they would have a constitution, which would mean they could potentially come as a community group to use the facilities at a reduced rate if they're doing it for fundraising to build more facilities at their schools and things like that. So I think they can also be accommodated in the substantive motion under that category.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? 2. Carried. 5, 2. I can add, that's 7. Apologies for that. Next item of business, CEO 060425, Where Your Wellies event date. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Angus is the mover. Seconder? Councillor Campbell. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. Having been around for some years, I have attended the Where Your Wellies event numerous times in the past and seen what a great community spirit there is, and all the local kids have fun. We might not be making money out of it, but I think it's an important coming together of community, and also tourists from Perth that come to see what we're up to. So I'd be happy to see it proceed for this coming year. And yes, of course, review later in the year to see what we want to do in the future, and if it's financially viable, or if we've decided it's run its course and it's no longer something we want to do. But it's been a great event in the past, and I would like to see it come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell.
I agree with Councillor Angus. Speaking to people in the Lower Chittering region, they always speak about Where Your Wellies and are quite eager to get it up and running again. So be eager to get it up. See it continue, and hopefully a successful year this year.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Anyone speaking against or wish to speak for and make an amendment? Maybe?
If I may, Mr.
Councillor
President,
Ross.
if I may propose an amendment, move an amendment, which I think the Minute Secretary has there. So points 3 and 4 would be added, and I'll read those out when they appear. Thank you. That the review referred to in point 2 is to be conducted by an external facilitator with its scope to include the purpose and objectives of the event, the intended audience profile and size, principles, total costs, including value of staff time and options for funding. And point 4 considers funding for this assessment in the upcoming budget deliberations. So, Mr. President, I wish to move that amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Can I have a seconder for the amendment? Sorry, Councillor Hughes, in my blind eye. Thank you. Okay, very good. Councillor Ross, you...
Thanks, Mr. President. In thinking about this item this evening, or in preparation for this evening's meeting, I went back to the council papers from June 2020, where this matter first arose about continuing the event and conducting a review. And that's how we come to have the mention of the review in this evening's paper, recommendation, because it wasn't conducted, for reasons that are made clear to us in our briefing papers, it wasn't conducted. I'm mindful that some of the matters that Council at that time discussed as its concerns probably could have been addressed in the interim time. Among the matters that had been raised at the time were that the event had started as an event for farmers in a time of drought. The target audience was the community of the Shire of Chittering, and so it was deliberately a small gathering. Then it moved to become a huge gathering where 85% of the attendees, according to our papers, came from Perth. So it stopped being a local community-focused event. To me, that flags a review that we need to be very mindful of what are we trying to achieve in holding this event, which is the case for any event. So I'm mindful too that, as I mentioned in a previous item, the Tourism Advisory Group facilitated the review of Taste of Chittering and came up with what is now a very effective template to guide the ongoing holding of that event. So my suggestion in having this amendment addition to the motion is that it would be good to give Where Your Well Is the same treatment, to have a formal external review conducted that allows us to identify what's the purpose, why are we doing this, why are we tying up staff resources. In the papers from 5 years ago, there is reference that managing this event took up 6 months of a staff member's time. Now, my guess is that's an overestimate, but if it were true, it would be alarming, and it would be something Council should have reviewed. So that's my purpose in putting that the review needs to be a carefully managed review where we're clear about what we want to achieve from this event, so that when it goes forward after this year's one, it's got the right shape and form that everyone believes is the right way to go. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I agree with many of the points that Councillor Ross has made. I was on council when we did make that recommendation that it be reviewed, and it was largely because it had become, excusing the pun, a little bit big for its boots, and it was excluding local kids because it was constrained in its location and there was too many people coming from out of the area, and I believe it needs to be taken back to what some of those original objectives of the event were. And I also think that it's important that if we're ordering a review, we give it some outline of what we hope to achieve by that review, and also it does need how it's going to be funded also to be included in the motion, I think. So this is a good amendment and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anyone speaking against the amendment? I am. I have an amendment for the amendment.
Do we have to vote on the amendment first?
No. My amendment is your
We're
amendment.
moving it over time, son.
So my amendment,
one night.
my amendment to this is to delete point 4 and then to delete external facilitator and replace it with Shire officer. So just delete external facilitator and on point 3 and replace it with Shire officer. That's my amendment of the amendment. Can I have a seconder for the amendment of the amendment?
Oh,
Councillor Angus. Let me write this down because I'm going to get confused. That's me. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Angus. I get to talk to it. I don't disagree reviews required. I just don't feel we should be spending money on an external facilitator when the Shire officers can undertake the review if we give them the scope, as is described in here, and the purpose and objectives. Then I see no reason why we should be spending ratepayers' money on on an external facilitator to undertake the review. So I think the review's great, good, but let it have the review by the Shire officers. And that's hence the reason for deleting point 4 and changing the text. Councillor Angus.
I agree with you, and I feel that the Shire officer will be more on point with what our desires and needs are, rather than an external facilitator. Who are we going to find, where are we going to get them, and what knowledge are they going to have of what we've had before, what we'd like in the future if it goes on. So I agree, I support you.
Councillor, is anyone speaking against the amendment to the amendment? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. President. In putting the amendment together, I was very deliberate in suggesting an external facilitator. I think this is an event, because of the degree of change that it has experienced over the years in its focus, the staff turnover we've had, all sorts of things. We will achieve greater objectivity by having an external person conduct the review, and we're not talking about $50,000, we're talking about a workshop and someone writing up the outcomes of the workshop, so we're not talking about anything huge. But when we did this with Taste of Chittering about 2 or 3 years ago now, that was a very successful enterprise. We had industry stakeholders involved in it. We had staff members, relevant staff members involved in it, and the outcome was a document that has been a useful guiding document ever since. So my identification of it to be an external facilitator is very deliberate. I believe that will give us a better outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone else? Councillor Hughes?
I just have a question about meeting procedures. I think that we should have to vote on the amendment that Councillor Ross proposed first, and then there's nothing stopping you making a further amendment of the substantive motion should they get in. Because as it stands now, Councillor Ross's amendment has not been heard or voted on.
All right, I'll be moved. All right, we'll leave my amendment.
This is, yeah, standalone amendment.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay, well then I guess I'll go back to talking about the amendment then.
Like, even if Councillor Ross's amendment gets through, you can still further amend it to tweak it how you would like.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. I missed that point. All right, so I'm still talking to Councillor Ross's amendment. As I mentioned, my view is that the Shire Office conduct I don't support the amendment, but my view is that the Shire Officer can conduct the review. And I know it's been mentioned that the Where You Wellies did grow, but that was over successive Where You Wellies events. Now, we haven't had one in a long time, so it's yet to be proven as to whether this new Where You Wellies is going to actually attract anyone else beyond the Shire. Because those kids, who were my kids, no longer crawl in the mud anymore. So it's a whole new breed of families that will be coming to this, and until you've actually run the event, I wouldn't want to commit ratepayers' money to a review and having to pay the facilitators' costs, which I'm pretty sure you're not going to be left with anything less than $10,000 to do the review, where the Shire officers can actually undertake the review. So I don't support the amendment.
Can I speak to this too?
You can, yes.
Okay, so we're running this Where You Wellies. It's been very successful, dropped off the radar a few years ago. Why don't we go ahead, work hard at it, do the best we can. If it's successful, leave it alone. Only do a review if there are some problems with it, instead of having to complicate everything so much.
Thank you. Councillor Dewar, Councillor Angus, you haven't spoken to this amendment yet, so I'm just...
To the amendment?
To the amendment, sorry. Stuff things up here.
I agree with your views, Councillor King, and also Councillor Dewar. Let's see what happens with it, and the original recommendation says it delay the review until after the event anyway, so I won't support the amendment as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Curtis, Councillor Campbell, anything?
No, I won't support the amendment.
Councillor Curtis not speaking. Councillor Campbell, sorry.
I may have missed it, but the reviews to be done after the...
Yeah.
I would support it. I just think it's external facilitators or external eyes may make it. There's no harm in getting it. I know it costs money, but sometimes a fresh pair of eyes is a good thing.
Okay, Councillor. Who's the mover? Councillor Ross, you're the mover of the amendment. You have right to reply.
So this is
To your amendment.
my amendment?
Yeah, your
Okay.
amendment.
I suppose just to return to this point of why a review, which is what council voted for 5 years ago, there were things, if my memory is correct and the information is not in the papers, the amount of staff time that Where Your Wellies and Taste of Chittering were taking up at that time was something like $50,000 each, because staff time costs money. And there were all of the hire facilities, so things like the marquee is $9,000 in a hire fee. So the issue was about the amount of money that was being tied up. If there is external funding available through grants, then that needn't be a problem at all. But if there isn't, then there's a problem. So the review was partly to address this issue that the cost had risen as the numbers of people attending had risen, which is hardly surprising. And it was this issue of what are the numbers meant to be, that it had got up to 7,000 visitors. That immediately requires a whole lot more expenditure, particularly for this one where you've got to hire showers in large numbers to cater for the number of kids needing to go through them. So the point of the review was to see how do you actually manage this event so that it can be financially viable, to ensure it's got its external funding available and is not an undue drain on Shire resources. And of course the event, as the existing motion says, the event is after the review is after the event.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Right, councillors, we'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? Against? The amendment's lost to 3. Sorry? Is lost. 2.
3, 4.
3, 4.
Sorry.
There's 7.
I know. I'm struggling today. 3, 4. Can't count quick enough. All right. So, Councillor Ross, you still have the floor on the substantive motion. You've raised an amendment, so that was your amendment. You were talking. You raised an amendment. We voted on.
Didn't we just vote on it?
Yeah. Sorry.
Didn't we just vote on it?
We voted on the amendment, but you still can talk to the substantive. So you were talking to the substantive. You raised an amendment.
Yes.
The amendment was lost. You can still talk to the substantive motion.
Look, really just fine with it as it is.
Okay. Right, so it's Councillor Ross. So the mover was Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell's the second. Councillor Ross has spoken to the substantive. Now, councillors, anyone else want to speak to the substantive motion? I'll just say one last bit.
I will, but I'm waiting to see if you make your amendment first.
Well, the amendment doesn't hold because it's...
No, but you can still propose the exact wording you were going to change it to.
I'm trying to work out whether there's any point to it though now. Yeah, I can
Not
do it.
because the review's going to be after anyway, and we can discuss the review on.
I won't propose an amendment to the substantive. I'll leave it as it sits. Actually, I will propose an amendment. Sorry. And my amendment will be to change the wording of to
To a Shire officer.
to a Shire officer, yeah. And then we wouldn't have any point 4. So we would replace this point 3 that's written here in that amendment will become the new point 2, won't it? Agrees.
Yes, but then you keep the point, but just add this afterwards.
Yes.
Just a few words you take out.
Yes. Okay, so it still becomes 3, yeah? Because if you keep that there, it can become 3. Agrees to 2, but reviews by the Shire officer.
Well, I have a few amendments.
Yeah. Yeah, so this Councillor Ross's amendment number 3 will become my amendment number 3, but the only thing that gets replaced is external facility, gets replaced with Shire officer. And so therefore that flows. Without having to rewrite point 2 again.
Point 2 is fine.
Yeah, point 2 is fine.
And it's add point 3 because the other one was lost.
Yes, yeah, add point 3. So
It says amendment,
Aye.
add point 3.
as read as follows. Thank you. More
So
confusion?
it's, just take the amendment
Police
out.
officer?
Shire
Just add.
officer. Police officer. Which, I just have a question, which Shire officer would do it? Would it be the community development
That's
officer?
the CEO to
or-
sort out.
Yeah.
That's the CEO's
Yeah.
decision.
All right, so that's my amendment. Can I have a seconder for the amendment?
Okay.
Councillor Angus. I'm confused completely now. Sorry, I apologise. Mover. Seconder, Councillor Angus. As the mover, I'll talk to it. I mean, I agree that we should undertake a review, but I still think that my view is that the Shire officer should be capable of undertaking a review. And I think this just provides a bit more definition of what that review should involve, and helps to ensure that we get the level of review that we expect. So, Councillor Angus?
I don't have anything to say about it, thank you.
Anyone else speaking against the amendment? Okay, right of reply not required. If no one's speaking against the amendment is carried, and then there's a new substantive motion. That will include point 3. And I have nothing else to add. So that covers off me. Councillor Hughes, you haven't spoken to the substantive yet.
Just my comments earlier about my recollection of why the review, you know, we wanted to review this event are still relevant. I do have a bit of a concern with it being a Shire officer because I think that it was, that's how it got bigger than Ben-Hur in the first place. Bit of enthusiasm and the scope of the event got a little bit out of control, whereas I think if it was an independent person, they would have had a bit more unbiased to the event, and they would have potentially been able to be a bit more clear about what the objectives were way back at the start as opposed to what it grew into. But happy with the substantive motion as it is now. Don't think we're going to get the external person back in there, so happy to vote as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jewell, Councillor Curtis, any comments? No. Right, Councillor Angus was the mover of the original substantive. Right, reply.
While I'm happy to support it with your amendment, I was happy that the original substantive motion really said all we needed it to, because point 2 agrees to the delay in the review until after the event. So surely after the event it would come back to council, we'd discuss it, we'd discuss how we're going to go about the review and what we'd be looking for. But yes, this just makes it clearer, but it will still come back to us and we'll talk about it again. So, yep, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Angus.
Councillor Ross has a question.
Councillor Ross.
May I just clarify whether Councillor Angus is correct? There's nothing there that implies council will be involved in the review. As it's now worded, to me that review is an operational matter for the CEO to manage.
Yeah. Just for clarification, I wasn't anticipating that we would undertake the review, but we would certainly get feedback to council following the event, when we could then talk about what is needed in the review and who's going to perform it, etc. We always get feedback after our events, so we would hear whether it was successful, what it's cost, etc.
I see what you're saying.
Again, to me, there are two different reviews in a way that we're talking about.
So we can suspend standing orders, or we can encourage either Councillor Curtis or Councillor Dewar to make a minor amendment to that point 3 that brings a report back to council.
Yes, may I just want to make a point. I'm not arguing one way or another, just make a point. I believe there are two different reviews implied in what we have there now. One is a review of the 2025 event, and as Councillor Angus just said, that happens after every event. There is some kind of review of that year's event. But the review intended 5 years ago, and which I believe was intended in the substantive motion, is a review of the event overall. So I think we need to get clarity about what we're trying to review.
I'm going to move to suspend standing orders.
I'll second that. Yeah.
All those in favour of suspending standing orders? Standing orders are suspended.
That means we can go
I think you misunderstand my idea of it coming back to council. So when I talk about a review, I'm talking about the same sort of review as you're talking about, but after the event, we would get feedback that comes back to council, not a review, but feedback that would come back to council, and we would then say between us, oh, that was great or it wasn't. Now we need this official review to look at all the different aspects. Is it worthwhile? What did it cost? What will it cost in the future? Someone else to do that review.
That's asking for a second review of the review.
Yeah, it's, to me, that's
I'm not
two
saying
reviews.
we review it. We receive the feedback.
And then review it and ask for another review.
No, we don't review it. We just set the direction of where we want to go.
To me, that's not implied in
Yeah,
what
you
we've
can.
got.
'Cause I'm confused.
So the original intent of the way this item has been written was referring to the original council resolution, which wanted us to conduct a review of the event after this, the 2024 one, if it had happened, with the intent of determining whether it can become a profitable event or raise awareness of, there were some things that in this amendment tonight, council has now indicated what they would like to see in that event. So the interpretation of the original document, yes, we do give feedback to council after the event, which would just be a normal feedback. The event was a success, we had so many people, etc. This review extends way beyond that, and to me the amendment that was made tonight just already clarifies what will be in the review that this original council resolution had asked for. So it just outlines the items that will be addressed in that review. So it will not come back to council in the sense of asking, can we now go out and do the actual review? We will bring it back to council after the event has been done to say just the statistics for this event, and now let's look at all of the items that council wanted the review of the event in its entirety into the future would benefit, and those aspects will be addressed. So
I guess
for me the amendment just already sets those expectations, which is
But what's missing off the amendment, although it's implied that the review will come back to council, it's not explicitly written that undertake the review and bring it back to council.
It is implied.
It's implied.
And see, it couldn't, it says do it after the event. Well, it'd be impossible to do it before the event, like the bigger scale review, because it's 2 months away. Like this event has to run, which is why the motion is there to kind of endorse the running of it. It's only 2 months away, it's scheduled for the 22nd of June. But it's, so you would have the feedback on how did this one go, but there is the bigger thing, which I believe is what point 3 is about.
I think that's about the overall review, whether it's a short term or a larger one. It's still the review, right? It's the review.
It's the big review.
It's the review. There's one review, but it doesn't say it's coming back to council. That's
But
what it doesn't say.
It does not have to state that, because our role is to implement council decisions. The only way I can confirm that I've implemented council resolution is to bring that
Provide
report
us
back
with
to
the review.
council.
That makes sense, but again, we try not to leave things implied. We try to make them as defined, and we actually haven't asked, because otherwise we'd write a report. We would say that the CEO undertakes a review and provides a report to council on that review. You know what I mean? That's how we normally write it. But we didn't, but it's not that way at the moment.
I suppose if it was next
I
year
know.
in person, they would have brought it to us.
I'm sorry if I've made this complicated, but
Look,
my thought was simply that, okay, it says review after the event, so there's no reason why after the event we can't say, right, now we're going to do a review, who's going to do it, when are we going to do it, etc. That's all I meant.
So I'm confident the review's going to be done, right? And I'm confident the review will come back to council, but it just doesn't say that.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's an instruction from council.
I know.
So in all of our things, we don't always say it comes back to council. It comes back to council because it's an instruction from council.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that then.
Can
But
I move we read?
I think we just got to be. I know it's playing pedantics, but I think if we're asking you to do something, then we should be explicit in what we're asking you to do, and whether that is the. But we're asking you to review, but we're not asking you to bring it back to us.
Did you do a review? Yes.
That's right. You could technically say you did a review and not tell us what the review was.
What would be the point of doing the review then?
That's my point. Anyway, let's move on. Let's.
Why waste our time doing a review if no one's going to see it?
Councillor Angus has moved to resume standing orders.
Can you pinky promise to bring it back to us?
Hang on, before
Do
we
we
do
add
that.
a point 4 amendment that
Well, the
says
only one that can do that.
Return the outcomes.
The only one that can do that is Councillor Curtis or Councillor Jewett, because they're the only ones that haven't spoken to the item. Everyone else has spoken.
No, thank you.
Nothing to say.
Right, not happening. All right, Councillor Angus has moved to resume standing orders, and I've seconded that. Can I have a show of hands to resume standing orders? Carried 7-0. Standing orders are resumed. And
Who seconded that? You.
I did. Councillor Dew, anything to talk about this standing motion? No? Councillor Dew?
No thanks.
Okay. Councillor Curtis, all good?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Angus, you have right of reply.
I thought that's
She's
what I
had
did.
that.
You've had that, righto. Okay. Let's put it to the vote.
That's where we went.
All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried 7-0. I completely shocked.
That's what started the trouble.
Oh no.
Oh no, I've heard that too.
All right, next item of business, CEO 070425. Superannuation for council members. Councillors, we have an officer's recommendation, which by absolute majority, which is to commence superannuation payments effective 1st of July 2025. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Dewar. Very certain. Seconder, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dewar.
Yeah, look, great officer recommendation here. Should have been done ages ago. So let's just move on and vote on this one and get it done.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillor Ross.
Yes, I think Councillor Dewar is correct. It's long overdue that this has happened. And I think for a long time councillors have felt in a degree of confusion about where do we stand. So I think this actually sorts it out very well.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell.
So this motion is applicable to Band 1 and Band 2 councillors, for councillors who are employed full-time, and rightfully should be afforded the opportunity to have that super paid. We're not a Band 1 or Band 2. I don't consider myself to be employed by the Shire, and by no means think I should be entitled to their perks or benefits which are afforded to permanent or casual staff. They should be paid super. So I don't support the officer's recommendation, and you can, I suppose, take my note now that should this motion pass, I would opt out not to be paid super.
I think that's something you'll have to do later as a separate item.
Oh, I've made the statement anyway.
That's fine.
Thanks.
Councillor speaking for. Councillor.
I just have a question.
Hughes.
Do we need to declare an interest in this, given its
It's an interesting
financial-
comment.
Right. Implication.
So I can just clarify, it's like when we pass the budget or when we pass the, when we pass the budget, it affects everybody at the same point in time, and it's a council resolution that even if it benefits a councillor, it is a decision of council that's required to affect this.
Thank you for that answer.
Okay, councillors, I'll speak to it. Look, Councillor Campbell's correct that it becomes mandatory for Band 1 and Band 2 and discretionary for the other bands. But setting fees are taxable. Taxable income attracts superannuation. It's only fair. If I'm happy to forgo the superannuation if the tax department won't tax me, absolutely. But if they want to tax me, I'm entitled to super. So that's my view. Councillors, anything else? Otherwise, I'll refer back to Councillor Dewar.
Yeah, look, I mean, superannuation's been around for 25 years. As President King said, it's an income. Some technical stuff about exactly what sort of income, but according to my account, it's income, so it's taxable. So I can't. There's no good reason why we shouldn't be receiving superannuation, and should be probably retrospective.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillor Curtis, Councillor English.
No, that was right of reply.
Sorry?
That was right.
That was right of reply.
Did I? Oh, sorry. All right, that was right of reply. My apologies. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried 6-1. Councillor Campbell was against. Next item of business is CEO 08-0425, electronic signboard Lower Chittering. Councillor motion response. Okay, we have an officer recommendation that we received information in this item as the requested report. Resolved to continue with the process of energising of the signs at the existing location, and after consideration of the report, consider that no additional digital signage is required in Lower Chittering. That is the officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell. Seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross. Councillor Campbell.
Just thank you for all involved who worked on the report and provided it back to us. Still unfortunate and disappointing that we still have no time frame when the board's going to be energised. So I suppose we'll just keep on kicking the can down the road and carry on lobbying Western Power and hope in the near future or decade we can have that sign energised. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Ross.
Really just the story here is an unfortunate one about the lack of activity of Western Power in what is a growing area for our Shire, so most unfortunate that this is the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Campbell, right a reply?
No, thank you.
Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Next item is CEO 09-0425, Local Government Ordinary Elections 2025. By an absolute majority, declare the Electoral Commission will be responsible for to conduct the 2025 ordinary elections. And decide in accordance with section 4.612 of the Local Government Act that the method of conducting the election will be as a postal election, which I think that's how it's always been. All right, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus, a seconder. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is a matter where we actually have to make a decision about who will conduct the election, and the complexity of elections in our era is such that it's well beyond the capabilities of the Shire to do it. And so we are fortunate that we have the Electoral Commission available to do it. And the other benefit of externalising it is absolute objectivity. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus.
Only to add that this has worked well for us in the past, and so I'm happy to support that we do this way again.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation?
Just have a question, actually. Can I just ask for some verification why it says together with any other elections or polls? What might they be?
Extraordinary.
What's the polls though?
It's just the catch-all in their legislation, so that should anything occur between now and that time, we've made the decision to allow them to conduct it as one.
Right. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify what that was. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Thank you, Executive Manager. Right, anyone wish to speak? Right, a reply for Councillor Ross.
Oh, no, thank you.
Councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Right. Next item of business, CEO 10-0425, policy review process. Councillors, your voting requirements are absolute majority. You have an officer's recommendation to do lots of things. I'm not going to read them out. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Campbell. Seconder. Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell.
I suppose the review's been done, it's been adopted and fine-tuned and improved, so happy to receive it and move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Angus.
Yes, we have workshopped this, talked about it a lot, and I'm happy to approve it.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? The only thing I'll say is it's been an exhaustive process of review, and I thank the staff for their time. And then obviously the intent is to have a more traceable and set of consistent and applicable policies for the local government. So I thank everyone for their time. Not the most joyful task, I must say, going through policies, but thank you to the CEO and staff. Councillor Campbell, right of reply?
Okay, thanks.
Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Item 10, reports of committees. COM 010425, Local Emergency Management Committee. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive the unconfirmed minutes from the meeting held on Wednesday the 26th of February 2025. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Ross. Councillor Hughes. Seconder, please. Has to be Councillor Ross now. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, the chair of that meeting, I can confirm that they are indeed a true record of the goings on of that meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Ross?
No, nothing to add, thank you.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Hughes, do you require right of reply? Councillors, no right of reply. I'll declare carried without dissent 7-0. Chittering Bush, next item of business is COM 020425, Chittering Bushfire Advisory Committee. And councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive the unconfirmed minutes of the meeting held on 11th of March 2025. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross. Second to Councillor Angus. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. This was a very good meeting. This first meeting in the year is almost like the end of season meeting. Not that fires have stopped happening, but the worst of it is behind us. So among the things that happened was that both Melinda and myself profusely thanked these people for the monumental contribution that they make. We also welcomed Nathan Manning, who's now the Community Emergency Services Manager. It was good to have him present. And I'd just make a general observation. In the time that I've been attending that committee, the quality and richness of reporting from the various people who are formally there in some capacity or other has really got better and better. So as a committee, I think it's functioning more and more effectively because of the quality of input that it's receiving from people.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus.
I'm happy to receive the minutes. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Ross, right of reply? No. Councillors, no one speaking against the officer's recommendation. I'll declare carried without dissent. 7-0. Item 11, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are nil. Item 12, questions from members without notice. Are there any questions? Councillor Curtis. All right, no questions. Item 13, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are nil, hopefully. Item 14, meeting closed to the public. There are nil. Item 15, closure. 9:57.